That was the first time Larry pulled that little trick.
Day two was a nightmare of a boat ride.
Nothing but fog. It's like you put a bag over your head.
I felt like I was scared I was going to get mugged any time out there in Cincinnati.
It was very, very difficult. You either fished or stayed in the press room or went to the Playboy Club.
One of the best classics I've ever been to. I love Cincinnati. Ray Scott really put on the dog in Cincinnati, I'm gonna tell you. We went to some fine places in Cincinnati. We one night went to the Playboy Club, and I'll never will forget my wife said, well, I guess this is gonna be one classic you'll never forget. We're going to the Playboy Club. And sure enough, we did.
I was kind of disappointed, but it was a novelty of it, and that was what Scott loved to do at the Classic.
We went to some of the best restaurants you've ever been to. Cincinnati was just a great host city, it really was.
Cincinnati was okay. It was busy. I dreaded going to the city prior to the event, but once we got there and with the boatyard, everything worked out okay.
The city, outstanding. The way we were treated, outstanding.
That was the first big arena that we had been to, and it was outstanding for us, the crowds, and it was well attended and well received.
I felt like I was scared I was going to get mugged any time out there in Cincinnati. I didn't particularly like Cincinnati.
I have very fond memories of the people of Cincinnati. The turnouts were big compared to what we had experienced before.
And the venue there was so close. You had the river. It may not be the best fishing, but in this case, fishing was not number one on the list when selecting the site.
We were unloading right beside the baseball field there. That was pretty awesome.
You had to run way south to be able to get around a goodly number of fish. We were making long runs on rough waters. It wasn't really the distance we were running, it was the conditions we had to run in. The barge traffic on it was just horrendous.
The second day of this tournament, it was a pretty long run from where we were taking off from in Cincinnati to the creek where we were fishing. And about halfway down there, we ran into a wall of fog. I mean, you couldn't see anything.
Day two was a nightmare of a boat ride. I mean, it was real foggy.
We go around the corner and it's nothing but fog. It's like you put a bag over your head. You can't see anything. Well now, if you let up, the guy behind you is going to run over you. If you stay in the throttle and the guy in front of you slows down, you're going to run over him. Where's the river?
That was before the days of GPSs and things like that. We really had to be very careful.
And the concern was that somebody was going to end up running a bass boat, a classic bass boat, out in front of one of those barges and just get crunched.
We'd run down that thing in the mornings in the fog, and God, you know that if there's a big old barge coming up through there and you can't hear him, you know, all the possibilities.
What are you going to do? So everybody is really struggling on how to navigate now, because this thing, I mean, we got other boats out there running 60 miles an hour.
I remember running down the river, and I was running the bank and keeping my eye on the bank and keeping my eye up ahead of me, you know, and you'd run around the corner and all of a sudden there in the fog right ahead of you would be a barge. And we would almost hit it, and he would just peel the boat out around the end of it and then come back into the bank again. It's one of the most remarkable jobs of boat driving I've ever seen. Of course, I was just going fast enough to keep it on plane.
So most everybody moved over to the edge of the bank, and you had to stay there because you couldn't move out in the middle because you never knew what was out there, whether behind that fog bank was a big barge.
I'm looking at my depth finder and I'm seeing I'm only in about 5 foot of water, so I know I'm just about to run aground, so I ease out of the throttle, hoping nobody runs over me. Well, when I eased out of the throttle, I guess I was the last one still running. Everybody else had already stopped because I heard no other boats. Well, probably 2 minutes or less after I had come out of the throttle and started idling up the bank, I heard this horn blow, and here goes this huge barge. and goes probably within 10 foot of me. Had we kept running, I'd have hit that barge head on. I mean, it was wild.
The Ohio River is it's just not a good fish. It just doesn't have a big population of fish.
I feel sorry for anybody that is out of Ohio if that's all they've got to fish.
One word describes it like any time you're on the Ohio River, tough, with a capital T.
The Ohio River had just whipped me like a yard dog when we fished the qualifying tournament there the year before. Although I look forward to going there, I just had everything that could go wrong. Murphy was an optimist. I mean, things that couldn't go wrong went wrong for me in that particular classic.
A limited number, small number of fish caught, but it was a good competition. Sometimes the tougher the tournament, from the standpoint of actually a good story, somebody's going to figure it out to catch the fish.
5 bass, pull it out. 6 pounds, 6 ounces. Let's give it a good hand.
There was really nothing to fish. I mean, 2 or 3 small creeks. I had a pattern going for a while on fishing a jig beside refrigerators that's thrown off in the dumps in the side of the river. But there was absolutely nothing to fish for miles and miles and miles on that river because the constant barge traffic keeps the bank swept out.
Corps of Engineers has made that thing a straight, nothing but mud bottom ditch.
This thing had just tremendous amounts of barge traffic, and the fishery was terrible.
Basically, what the rivers are set up for is the barge traffic. And the only problem that has caused in these river systems is they block off a lot of backwaters and let it all sand in.
Being a wildlife biologist, I can tell you that rivers that have a lot of siltation and muddy water have low productivity. In other words, the fish have a tough time carrying off a spawn, and then the fry have a tough time surviving.
You could not afford to miss a fish there. If you got a bite, you had better catch it, because you weren't going to get a lot of bites. You had to fish just about 100%, and that's what you needed to do to win there.
The last day of the classic, Nixon and I were head and head. I was using a small spinnerbait on most of my fish, and I put on a bait that Sam Griffin makes, and it was a crankbait with a spinner, not an inline, but an old, like a spinnerbait spinner attached to that crankbait. So on the final day there, I hooked 2 bass that thought I had hooked well. I looked down the water, saw them, tried to just raise my rod, throw them in the boat. Both of them come off in the air. They would have weighed from 1 pound to 2 pounds.
Day 2, evidently I got there before other people, and I went in there and I caught 1 or 2 on a spinnerbait. And I grabbed up a buzzbait out. There was a stump way back in this little pocket. And I made a big, long cast back there, and I brought that buzzbait across that stump real slow. You know, you're just begging for one to hit it, and I mean a good one. About a 4-pounder comes up there and just sucked it down, and I got him all the way to the boat, and I couldn't even see him, nothing but the blade. I mean, I had him. And I went to lift him over the side because we didn't have dip nets in them days, and that thing fell off. And there, the classic just fell off my hook right in front of my face and just broke my heart. And I know after that, I really struggled to catch my fish.
So everybody knew it was going to be tough, and it was going to take somebody that had previously had fish to see if they can either match that particular pattern or come very close. So I think it was one of the few classics that somebody went in as a favorite and ended up, doing fairly well.
In the 3 years leading up to the 1983 Classic, Larry Nixon won 5 events, including the Bass Champs, which was held on the Ohio River just a year prior. The 1982 Angler of the Year had set his sights on the Classic crown.
Even before the tournament on the Ohio River, everybody was saying that Larry Nixon was a local favorite.
I think going into that, yeah, Larry was definitely the guy to beat there.
I was very confident on that river. That's one thing I'm going to say about the Ohio River.
I think any tournament that Larry Nixon is entered in, you classify him as among the favorites, if not the favorite. In this tournament, this classic on the Ohio River, he did have listed in his portfolio, won the Bass Champs tournament, so he had some experience.
Anytime that you have prior knowledge, and especially if you've won an event on a given body of water, number one, gives you a lot of confidence and also knowledge or background as to areas to check out and baits to use and techniques to use and that kind of thing.
We had an invitation on the Ohio River, and I won it. And that river suited me pretty good because it was a worm was the bait, and you had to be real patient, and you had to fish an area. So knowing that and having won there, I was really confident about going back to the Ohio River.
In an unconventional move to preserve his fishing waters, Larry Nixon revealed all at the Day 2 press conference, a move that could have cost him the Classic.
There was a couple other boats got to fishing in there hard because they figured out that I caught a limit the first day, and they seen me in there again, and it got kind of crowded in there the second day. In fact, the second day, I actually revealed where I was fishing, hoping that 3 or 4 of them that wasn't in the top 10 did not have a chance to win, wouldn't leave me alone.
That was the first time Larry pulled that little trick of telling everybody. In essence, what he was saying, he said, I'm fishing here, here, and here. All the rest of you better leave me alone.
I guess he felt like he would on it. He probably knew that everybody was just running and gunning and trying to find something. And maybe by doing that, you know, he's telling them, say, look, this is where I'm fishing, and, you know, hoping that they would honor that unwritten rule of stay out of my fishing place.
After having told him where he was at, had a competitor come in on him, wouldn't have spoken very highly of the competitor. And I think that's the main reason he did that.
It worked and it didn't work. I got rid of 1 or 2 that I really wanted rid of. One of them I didn't expect to leave, and he didn't. And then I acquired one that I didn't think I should have gotten because I opened my big mouth. You know, you just don't know how it's going to work. There was a lot of nerve-wracking over being in the last flight. Number one, I knew I wasn't going to get a chance at that early fish that I caught off a spinnerbait or a buzzbait. So that makes you nervous right there. And then who's going to be in there when you get there? And where are they going to be sitting when you get there? And
that flight can make you or break you. If you've got a dishonest guy that saw you there and goes in there and he ain't ever fished there, that's happened a lot over the years, and you know, it ain't right, but it does happen.
When I got there that last day, naturally, yeah, one guy was in one area I wanted to go to, and somebody else was over in there in that other little strip, so I said, oh man, I just got to fish. And it was a struggle. The last day was a real struggle.
The mental approach to tournaments that are really tough like that makes a lot of difference, actually. You've got to mentally be prepared.
Because there's a lot of little things, and boats don't tend to leave on day 3 like they did on one day and one. You know, they've done exhausted these other areas. Now they're going to spend all of it right here, and so I had to actually go back to another little creek about 6 miles up the river and get me some fuel and clear my head.
He stops to get gas. There's somebody up there getting gas, so he doesn't go right on up to the dock. I've got it won at this point, where he backs off for 50 yards, this place he never fished. Those are a great powder blue tail worm over there by stick up, catches a 1.5 pound fish, gasses up, goes back.
And then I turned around and I went back down there, and after I'd left, 1 or 2 guys had left, and I snuck in there and then took my time, and I caught 2 more keepers, I think, or 3.
The tougher the fishery, the more exciting the tournament. In a lot of cases that's true. It was true in 1983 because the outcome was not decided until the very last person weighed in, and it was not decided by much.
83 Classic was, I think, when we had a sense of theatrics starting to develop as far as staging the way in, and we always tried to look in the lie well and figure out who was going to be the potential winner. We didn't always bring in the who we thought was going to be the winner last.
They hold me and Ricky back, you know, and of course me and Ricky's both good friends, and I know he's got 2 or 3 or 4, and I know I've got 3 or 4, Now it's just a matter of how accurate we are on guessing what we're guessing.
You know how you'll talk out there in the line. We were lined up to come into the convention center there, but Larry didn't think, and he misjudged his weight a little, and I misjudged mine a little too, but I'm trying to be on the low ball, and he was too. And as it turned out, pretty tight.
In this case, it was so close we didn't know who to bring in last or next to last, but in the order of march, Ricky Green looked like he might have it, but he came in next to last to come in.
All right, Ricky Green. We've got 4 bass, 4 alive. You got to have 3 pounds and 8 ounces to pull in the lead. We're talking 40,000 smackers first prize. 4 pounds, 11 ounces. All right.
Larry Nixon was in the wings, and Nixon had 3 fish, so when Ricky Green took the lead, we thought, well, maybe we made a mistake here.
I know that was one of the awfulest things I've ever done. Had to wait on my fish to weigh. Right then, all I could think about was that 4-pounder I lost on that buzzbait, and I wouldn't be sweating this bad.
And then here comes Larry, and they stop the boat, and he opens the live well, and Ray's up on the stage. Ray Scott's up on there like he does, you know, give me a limit and cheering, and A team, B team, and all those things to get the crowd stirred up.
Ray had one big audience that he was playing to, you know, the whole city of Cincinnati, and they'd come in from everywhere. He probably made a great big deal out of it. And of course, you know, Larry and Ricky too, Ricky had never won a classic, never. So he could see visions of grandeur.
Larry starts pulling fish from the live well, and they look like a cigar. I mean, they're very small fish.
I lost it. You know, that's what's going through my mind. I figured the classic was over. I missed my chance. And I was blaming myself for not settling down faster than what I did. I'm blaming boats for coming in there and not leaving. And, you know, you're just thinking about all them things that fishermen think of when they fail to catch what they expect to catch.
And he gets the 3 fish in the bag and comes up there, and he looks like all the energy's drained out of him. He just looks like he's going to wilt there.
All right, folks, let's all hold our breath now. This is going to be awful close. Larry Nixon, it appears he's got 3 little fish. They're all 12 inches. They're all alive, and they'll all measure. Don't touch it. Don't touch the table. All right, now let's. Watch the scale now. 2 pounds and 2 to win. 2 pounds, 11 ounces, and that's our win.
I remember when he weighed in the last day there, he practically collapsed in Ray Scott, the weighmaster's arms. He said, "Oh, Ray, hold me up. You won't know what I've gone through to catch these 3 little old fish." And it looked like sardines in a basket, but it was enough.
You know, that classic could have slipped away from me so easy. Just one little boo-boo, and it took everything I could do as a fisherman to catch them 3 little bitty bass I had that last day to beat Ricky Green.
God, I can't believe it. You know what I went through to catch them 3 little bass?
Ricky was a great fisherman, and I could feel and taste Ricky's disappointment, and, you know, shed a tear or 2 for him probably. But when it come down to the champion, you didn't care who it was. You needed to win that tournament if you wanted to succeed in tournament competition.
It was the crown jewel in a great resume. However, for the next 4 years, Larry's victory would have the distinction of being the lowest weight ever to win a classic.
It didn't matter to me. I loved that record. You know, the lowest fish totaled until George won the classic in Louisville on the same river.
It's kind of like a ball game, you know. You beat somebody 10 to nothing or 1 to nothing, you still win, and you deserve all the credit.
When a fishery is tough, when you've got to really slow down, commit to a pattern or commit to a bait, and make it happen, that's the highest plateau that you can be as far as winning a tournament, because you took a tough fishery and you picked it apart and you beat it and you caught those fish.
You don't condemn a tournament experience by tough fishing. It's an opportunity for guys to show their best skills under the toughest of circumstances. To me, it's just as good.
I was real proud of that record because that was a tough one. It was an endurance test. It wasn't a tournament. It was an endurance test.
This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports.